Imagine someone collapses in front of you, right now, on the street. Their body hits the ground and they are not moving. You look around. Other people are looking too. And then something strange happens. Nobody moves. Not them. Not you. And the worst part? The more people who are watching, the less likely it is that anyone will help at all. This is not a theory. This is not a thought experiment. This has been proven, replicated, and documented across dozens of countries, cultures, and decades of research. And it says something deeply uncomfortable about the person you think you are. Welcome to the bystander effect. In 1964, a woman named Kitty Genovese was attacked outside her apartment building in Queens, New York. She screamed, she fought, she called for help. The attack lasted over half an hour. Initial reports claimed that 38 neighbors witnessed what happened and did nothing. That number was later disputed, but the story burned itself into the public consciousness. How could so many people watch someone suffer and not act? Two psychologists named John Darley and Bib Latane decided they needed an answer. Not a guess, not a moral argument, an actual scientific answer. So they built one of the most disturbing experiments in the history of social psychology. They placed a participant alone in a room and told them they would be discussing college life over an intercom system. Other voices joined the conversation, all of them recorded actors. Then, midway through the discussion, one of those voices began to sound distressed. It started to stutter, then it said it was having a seizure, then it went silent. What Darley and Latane found shattered a very comfortable assumption about human nature. When participants believed they were the only one who had heard the distress call, 85% of them left the room to get help within 60 seconds. But when participants believed that 5 other people had also heard it, that number dropped to just 31%. Same distress, same urgency, same human being in crisis. But more witnesses meant less action. This is the bystander effect. And your brain is not immune to it. Here is what is actually happening inside your skull when you find yourself surrounded by other witnesses. Your prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain responsible for decision-making and moral reasoning, does not operate in a vacuum. It looks for social cues, it watches other faces, it runs a rapid unconscious calculation. If something were really wrong, surely someone else would be reacting. No one is reacting. Therefore, maybe nothing is really wrong. Psychologists call this pluralistic ignorance. Every individual privately believes there might be a problem, but every individual also looks around, sees a group of calm faces, and concludes that the group knows something they do not, so they stay calm too. And now they become the calm face that the next person sees. The silence multiplies, the inaction spreads, and the person on the ground keeps lying there. This is not laziness. It is not cruelty. It is a feature of the social brain, not a flaw. Your ancestors did not survive by making independent, unilateral decisions in high-stakes situations. They survived by reading the group, by following the collective response, by not acting alone when alone meant exposed, and exposed meant dead. In the ancient world, that calibration kept you alive. In the modern world, it can get someone else killed. There is a second force at work, one just as powerful and just as invisible. It is called diffusion of responsibility. When you are the only witness, the weight of action falls entirely on you, your shoulders, your conscience, your hands. But every new person added to that crowd takes a fraction of that weight and distributes it among the group. With 10 people watching, you feel only 1/10 responsible. With 100 people, you feel almost nothing at all. The moral burden dissolves, and so does the action. Darley and Latane described this dynamic in a paper published in 1968, and the findings have been replicated so many times since then that the bystander effect is now considered one of the most robust phenomena in all of social psychology. Researcher Levine and his colleagues demonstrated in 2011 that even in violent situations, people were far more likely to intervene when fewer observers were present. The pattern holds across genders, ages, cultures, and contexts. It is not a Western phenomenon. It is not a modern one. It is human. Now here is the part that will make you deeply uncomfortable. You have already experienced this. Not in a dramatic life or death scenario, necessarily, but in smaller, quieter versions that happen constantly. The colleague at work who says something cruel in a meeting and the entire room goes silent. You look around. No one says anything, so you say nothing too. The comment thread online where someone is being mocked and you scroll past, assuming others will respond. The friend who seems to be struggling and you think, surely someone closer to them must know, surely someone else is checking in. The bystander effect does not require a crowd. It requires only the perception that someone else could be responsible. Two people is enough. Sometimes one other person is enough. And now the science gets stranger. Researchers Darley and Batson, in a study that has become legendary, took seminary students, people literally training to be ministers, and gave them a task. Some were told they were running late and needed to hurry across campus. Others were given plenty of time. On the way to their destination, each student passed a man slumped in an alleyway, apparently in distress. The variable that best predicted whether someone stopped to help was not their personality, not their values, not even how religious they were. It was simply how much of a hurry they were in. Students who were rushed walked past without stopping at a rate of nearly 90%. Some of them literally stepped over the person. This is the situation overriding the self. Not who you are, not what you believe, not what you would say if someone asked you, are you the kind of person who helps people? The situation wins, almost every time. So why does any of this matter? Why should you sit with this discomfort? Because awareness is one of the only antidotes that has ever been shown to work. When people are told about the bystander effect before they enter a situation, they intervene at dramatically higher rates. The knowledge does not eliminate the pull. The pull is biological. It is deep and old and wired into the architecture of your social brain. But the knowledge creates a moment of pause, a second of recognition. Wait, I know what this is. I know what my brain is doing right now. And in that pause, the prefrontal cortex catches up to the instinct and makes a different choice. Researcher Arthur Beeman and his colleagues demonstrated this effect directly in 1978. They educated participants about the bystander effect, then placed them in situations involving someone who appeared to need help. Informed participants were significantly more likely to intervene than those who had never heard of it. You are now one of those informed participants. There is also a practical tool that emergency responders, psychologists, and crisis trainers have been teaching for decades. It is the single most effective way to break the paralysis of the bystander effect in real time. You do not shout for help at the crowd. You pick one person. You point directly at them. You say, you in the blue jacket, call an ambulance right now. You eliminate diffusion of responsibility entirely by making one person individually accountable. The weight cannot spread. The weight has a name. The weight has a face. And almost always the weight gets picked up. This is not manipulation. This is understanding the machine and working with it, not against it. Your ancestors sat in groups around fires. They survived by reading the group, by moving with the herd, by taking their cues from collective behavior rather than individual instinct. That strategy made sense when predators were real and solo action was suicidal, but the modern world did not come with a manual, and your brain did not get the update. The tragedy of Kitty Genovese, however complicated and disputed its details have become, forced two psychologists to ask a question that changed how we understand human behavior. And what they found is both humbling and clarifying. You are not as independent as you think. You are not as moral as you imagine yourself to be in your hypothetical version of events. But you are also not helpless. You are not helpless because you are aware. And awareness, it turns out, is the thing that separates the person who walks past from the person who stops. The next time you are standing in a crowd and something feels wrong, something pulls at the edge of your attention and your eyes dart around to see if anyone else has noticed, remember this. You will feel the pull to wait. You will feel the pull to let someone else decide. That feeling is ancient. It is not wisdom. It is not instinct you should trust. Somewhere, 60 years ago, 38 people looked out their windows, and a woman screamed into the dark, waiting for just one of them to move. Now you know why they did not, And now, unlike them, you have no excuse.